You might not realise this, but the Ministry of Defence produces half of the carbon emissions of central government. That's why the MOD will be key in the UK trying to meet its commitment of net zero by 2050. The latest Defence Committee report, though, says that the MOD needs to work harder and faster to achieve this. So what new changes might we see over the coming months and years ahead? Firstly, flooding is expected to be the biggest climate risk in the UK in the next 5 years, which means Defence is likely to be called on more regularly to assist. But the report warns that any fall in the size of the armed forces might mean that the MOD has to refuse more of these requests. The report says rising temperatures will mean that some of the UK's key training areas, such as Cyprus and the Middle East, will become too hot to be safe for personnel by the 2040s. Environmental training, which used to be provided only for extreme cold and hot weather environments, such as the High North, Kenya and Brunei, might have to be extended as conditions become more inhospitable. The report urges the MOD to push hard to reduce carbon emissions from its equipment without eroding military capability, and warns it should not be delayed, especially as more than 1,000 new tanks and other armoured vehicles with conventional diesel engines will enter service in the next few years and will remain in service after the government's 2050 net zero carbon emissions target. As the Arctic ice melts, ice-breaking ships will no longer be needed in the high north. This means warships with hardened hulls could operate in this environment, and the Joint Expeditionary Force which works here will need to adapt its work to take account of this. It's understood that the Russians, Chinese and Canadians are currently hardening their ships' hulls, but the report says retrofitting hulls on the UK's warships would be too expensive. The design of warships may also have to change because cold seas are used to cool ships' engines, and as sea temperatures rise, engines will become less efficient. But there is some good news for personnel. The Defence Estate aims to be net zero by 2030, so improvements to housing could include updated and more efficient heating systems in the near future. UK Defence says it wants to be a global leader in responding to the threats of climate change, but the detailed measuring and reporting of emissions has stopped. The report recommends that an annual review should be reintroduced. All of the report's recommendations come with the caveat, without eroding military capability. The ability to respond effectively to security threats will always come above everything else. So any action on climate change will have to be balanced against this. So who's going to be responsible for coordinating all of this? Well, one of the recommendations in the report is the creation of a new Director of Climate Change at the Ministry of Defence. But if they decide to take up that recommendation and appoint someone, they'll need to move quickly. That's because the report also says that new kit isn't being replaced enough in response to new AI and electric technology, and what they want to see is more ideas being used from academia and industry.
Thanks for watching. For more from Forces News, like and subscribe to our channel.